Well, hello, friends. Welcome to the State of Beauty. I am your host, Dominica Escatella. I know that many of you know me, but I am so excited to host this little virtual event that where we're going to come alongside some amazing women that are up and down California, and many of you know our local gals. And I'm excited to introduce each one of you to them and just bring a conversation to the table that I feel like is very much needed through this time that the last 2 years through the pandemic and now with what's going on in Ukraine, just sometimes the world feels very heavy. And, how do we just get out of that? How do we just find the beauty in the everyday and just move forward with our goals and our dreams and everything else? So we have a really real, raw, and authentic conversation, much like you would have with your best friend. So expect, some really colorful conversation and, it's very organic. So you don't know where I'll head. So we're just going to go with the flow and I'm going to introduce you to my first guest. So here we go. So Cindy Rangel, she is the founder of EllaPocketbook. I'm going to bring her up and she'll introduce herself. Tell us a little bit about her. So Cindy, hey,
Hello,
welcome, welcome.
thanks for having me.
How are you?
I'm well. Thanks for organizing this amazing event. I'm so happy to be here.
Yes, well, thank you for connecting with us. How about you just tell our guests who are listening a little bit about you?
Yes, I am Cindy Rangel. I am the CEO and founder of EllaPocketbook, a sustainable travel handbag for today's global woman. And EllaPocketbook is for women of color who travel extensively by enhancing highly functional compartments with cactus fabric and ethical labor standards. And one of our pillars is beauty and self-love. So I'm really happy to share my travel stories and our endeavor to build and move to production stages in EllaPocketbook and beyond.
I love it. I love it. Thank you for connecting with us, and I can't wait to dive in to our conversation. So, welcome, welcome. And I'm going to bring in our next guest, which is Clarissa Hidalgo. Clarissa, she is a birth doula. I can't wait to talk about that, and founder of Multiple Sclerosis Mama. So, let's bring her right up. Clarissa, welcome.
Hey,
Hey.
hola mujeres. It's so good to be here with you on a Sunday, right? Wouldn't rather spend my Sunday any other way. My name is Clarissa. Hi everyone. I'm a longtime friend of Domenica's, but I am, like she said, a birth doula. I'm 30 years old. I'm a mama of two beautiful babies, and I am also a registered yoga teacher. I teach for Dignity Health, for women, infants, and children, a lot of different other organizations as well. And I also founded Multiple Sclerosis Mamas because I was diagnosed with MS when I was 19, and it was hard. And then there's school, and then there's pregnancy, and then it's like, oh man. So I kind of built a community around the fact that I have a struggle. All my mamas probably have a struggle too. And so we brought it all together. And thank you so much, Domenica. I love always being here with my women and spreading the word and just being
here. Well, thank you, Clarissa, for joining us today in this conversation. Happy to have you here and happy, that you're always down to support. So let's bring in our next guest, Chaya Lopez. She's the founder, director, CEO of Spiritual and Unstoppable. Let's bring her right up.
Hey everyone. Chaya. Thank you for having me on. Like Dominica said, I'm Chaya Lopez. I like to say online, I'm a mom healer and entrepreneur. And then as my day job, I teach people how to control their pain and manage stress.
Awesome. Well, Chaya, thank you for being here. And I'm excited to jump into this conversation and hear your perspective on finding the beauty. And so we are going to bring on our last guest, Elizabeth Wight. Elizabeth is the CEO of the Food Initiative of Greater Santa Claus. I can't wait to have her come on up. Hey, Elizabeth.
Hello, ladies.
Welcome.
Hi, thanks for having me. So yeah, I'm the CEO of Food Initiative of Greater Stanislaus. Have been for almost a decade. We were Interfaith Ministries for a long time, so if you're local, you would know that name more likely. But oh, I'm getting a lot of feedback. Are you fine? You hearing that too? Okay. Fine. Okay. So I have been doing that work for about 10 years. I'm also an artist, a mother of a teen, a tween, and a toddler, which is a crazy time to be alive. I spent many years as a single mom figuring out this whole work thing, CEO thing, while trying to also, cultivate my loves of art and books and gardening and all those things. And so I love this topic because this is something that is just always in my life, no matter what was going on. Incorporating beauty has been a core value of mine. So I think this is such an exciting conversation, and I appreciate you having me here with all these wonderful women.
I love it. Well, thank you for joining us today, all of you. I'm so grateful because I couldn't do this without any of you. So I'm just thankful very much that all of you are just down for, just a real, authentic conversation, just talking with friends here and just bringing to the table some, beautiful perspective that I feel like very much is needed right now. And so if you are watching through Facebook or YouTube, please comment on the chat. Give us your thoughts as we're having this conversation. And then if you're watching the replay, definitely give us some questions because we will funnel them and answer them. And at the end, we will show you how to connect to all our panelists. So definitely show them salam, connect with them through their social media platform. So let's go ahead and jump on to the conversation. I am excited. So I feel like when I was thinking of how are we going to kick this off is really, first of all, I feel like we need some strategies. What does our day look like to just find the beauty in every day and just kind of set our intentions, right? And so I know for me, I really started to start my day with, believe it or not, some candles. I know that, ooh, okay, some candles that, even though it's really light, it's daylight, I feel like, they really set the tone for my day just to be mellowed out. And I take a couple of minutes to meditate. I put on some really, lo-fi music and just set my intentions and put them out there. Now, it has been a hit and miss with it, but the practice has worked for me. And so I'm just kind of curious. We'll start off with Cindy. Like, do you find any strategies or can you share any strategies for finding beauty and fill in the blank? So whether it be just you, your life, your business, travel, whatever it is, what are your go-to strategies?
Great question, because as we live in a fast society in the United States, we never remember to slow down and catch our breath and really be in the self. So travel has taught me that tremendously, that slowing down is the key to a lot of things, because as women entrepreneurs, as mothers, as people, we are working and building things. We have to kind of slow down to find all the answers. So slowing down and really getting into the moment of awareness is key, as I found it really, really important in my travel story. I've been traveling since I've been a child. I've had the fortunate benefit of having rigorous parents who love travel. So I just carried that on into my life as a college student, as a mother, and beyond. So travel has taught me to really be in the moment, to be open to things despite any challenge, and to really slow down, whether it's indoors or outdoors. The answers will lie down in slowing down. So first thing I really do is go into breath work. I have a really easygoing 3 breaths. And like you, I do have an intention, and I really connect with a source of God and also myself. So like lighting a candle sometimes, like you, but also just staying present. I think that's really key, because like I said, in our society, it's a rush society. And we have to know that by slowing down as women, we have all the answers. And that's one of the reasons why I've created a sustainable travel bag company, because it's just really with the outdoors and nature, I've really found a lot of peace and answers. So that would be my suggestion, is to slow down and really think about where you are. And I think you'll find a lot of gems and answers in that process. So that's really have worked for me, with because I'm raising a son and I have a business and I'm moving and grooving and everybody's really busy, and just slowing down has really rooted me in my practice and my self-love. So that's a great question.
Yeah, I love that. Definitely slowing down. I know that that's a reminder I have to keep at the forefront, just, as an entrepreneur, juggling multiple projects and then work life also, kind of having to squeeze that in. And definitely with some fur babies, add that in there. So definitely have to be present and just slow down. So I love that. Clarissa, what, any thoughts?
Expect me like to drop the gems, right? I'm the registered yoga teacher. I should know, right? But I will say that every situation is different. I mean, from, dealing with the kids to dealing with school to dealing with my, chronic illness, whatever it is, the situation is always going to call for a different kind of reaction. So my, advice, whatever, is just kind of like Cindy was saying, slow down and just recognize, take things one day at a time, because really everything is going to require a different sort of approach. So I think slowing down is a great way. Like, and not only that, but finding your own ways. Like, my ways are not going to be Cindy's ways, and Cindy's ways aren't going to be my ways or Domenico's way, anyone else. So it's really about finding what works for you. And that's what I tell my mamas all the time. I have MS too, but my multiple sclerosis, the way it affects me, the things that happen in my life are entirely different from what happened in yours. So when you see social media, when you see, things around us, it's really easy to assume, and it's really easy to draw assumptions like, oh, she's able to manage, or they have a great relationship. And it's not always that way. Really, it's about looking inwards, I think, and it's about thinking, what do I need to make myself whole? Because that's what really matters. So I think that's the biggest thing, is really looking at what you need at the time. And I will say this because I'm an accessible yoga teacher and I've had to accommodate with my chronic illness, tailoring everything to you at the moment, right? Because we're different every day, every minute. And you're going to want something different next week than you need right now. So.
Clarissa, that's a very good point, because I feel like we we go through seasons, and I feel like, I know this is going to sound really deep, but I am the ashes of all the people I used to be. So definitely who I was 3 years ago is not who I was right now. So I completely feel that in the depth of my being, right? Because at the moment this may work, but as we evolve and really grow, we'll find different things that work better because of it matches who we are in that moment, right? So I love that. Chaya, I would really love to hear kind of your thoughts. And then we'll end with Elizabeth.
I love the going to self, right? So I'm the holistic health practitioner in the bunch. I've been studying holistic healing and holistic health for 22 years now, practicing it. 25 years since I started studying it. So I'm like, ooh, what can I really bring, right? But here's the thoughts that I was left with. Thinking in a holistic view of mind, body, spirit, or mind, body, soul, right? If I were to break down what processes I take clients through, a lot of it is just being mindful. And what I mean by this is, like, the minute we wake up, the majority of us because some people are like Tigger and they just jump out of bed excited, ready to go, right? But the majority of people that I encounter tend to say, I don't really want to get up in the morning. I don't want to deal with the world. I don't want to adult. Adulting is horrible. And I always say the reframe, hey, adulting gives you power, right? Like, so reframes are a huge thing in my world with clients when I tell them start to be mindful, like the minute you're waking up, how is your body feeling? How is your mind feeling? Have you even asked, right? And are you first off, before you even begin your day, are you doing things that are going to bring currency inward, like energy inward? Things like as simple as water. I love that breath was mentioned because it's the first thing we do when we wake up. So if I were to say one tip to just start your day off feeling beautiful, is I go back to get tribal, right? Like move your body, be willing to allow yourself, even if it's next to your kids, next to your partner, because I don't know what situation you wake up in. But sometimes there's kids, sometimes there's fur babies, sometimes there's a boyfriend, but giving yourself your body space to move and make sounds. So go back to the moment of, have you ever watched a baby when they start to wake up? They stretch and they're like, oh, they're oohing and gawing. And sometimes they'll bust out crying while they wake up just because they're in that moment of feeling their body and feeling that breath. So I'll end with that. Yep. Can't hear you, Dominica.
Okay, I knew that was going to happen at one point, right? I was going to be muted.
I could so keep going. I could so keep going, but
We'll get it out of the way. So no, I feel like sometimes when we wake up, we really forget to stretch and just move. I know that sometimes I woken up plenty of times where I feel stiff, and I was like, and just kept going, because I just had to get out the door. So I love that you brought that point. But Elizabeth, any thoughts on just strategies that you may use to find the beauty?
Absolutely. First, I want to just say that I love what you say, Chaya, about stretching and moving, because one of the things, so I work in the food security realm, right, and food access, but I'm also very active in the body neutrality and body positivity and anti-diet world, where these things overlap, first of all, because I'm dealing with food all day long, but we are afraid to take up space. And the first thing, your first immediate zone around you is your body, the space that you inhabit, and being not afraid to take up space. And that doesn't just mean stretch. That just means to be in your body where you are is so beautiful. And that can happen anywhere, all the time, because the thing that you take with you always is your body. But really, at the heart of it, I'm a businesswoman. I'm an MBA. I've been running this agency for a long time. And so I just want to speak to finding beauty in business, because I think that that's where I can offer a little bit of value. And one of the things that I think we forget is that it doesn't matter what workplace you're at, it's full of people, right? Your job is not just your job. Your job is not just your outward expression of your job and the labor you produce. Your workplace, your vocation has to do with the relationships with the people in your immediate vicinity, ultimately with yourself in that vicinity. So it's like saying that wherever I am, like what I say, wherever you go, here you are at work, you still have to bring that self and experience the people, and try not to hold back and push back on experiencing the people and experiencing the other things that you have in that space. So you can find beauty in an interaction with a coworker or a client. You can find beauty, in these transactions that you have, but you can also always, I'm doing good work. I'm doing something I care about. There's beauty in that moment all the time. But also, I think that the pitfall that we can fall into is say, like, I will find beauty in this stuff, and it becomes another thing to do. It becomes another check on your to-do list. Oh, wait, I didn't find beauty in this. I'm back. Like, also just cut yourself some slack. Don't make this a to-do. Just experience it. But if you start putting pressure on joy, putting pressure on love, putting pressure on beauty, it loses all its power. So I would say hold this lightly. And that's it for that. Again, like you, I could go on forever, but I think hold it lightly is probably the most important thing for me, because I can white knuckle things and be like, I have to do this. And then you crush it. And
That's
not in a good way.
Point. Yeah. Yeah, no, that's an excellent point, because I feel that I am a fan of checklists. And when I don't get that item checked, I feel I feel bad because I didn't get through everything that I needed to do. But to your point, Elizabeth, is that give yourself grace, right? When something doesn't happen that you have wanted to happen, and it's okay because we can start the next day over. So definitely great points. I love it. I love it. And so one of my other thoughts was when talking about beauty was I think a lot of things, especially as entrepreneurs and as businesswomen, as in the corporate realm, the nonprofit realm, we always have goals and strategies, right, to get to those outcomes. So when we talk about beauty, how do you find the beauty in failure? So we're going to kick off this question with Cindy. And but before we do, I just want to say that for myself, how do I find the beauty in failure? Well, I have to say that for me, that's an ongoing challenge because being really goal driven and oriented, I have to remind myself to give myself grace. So there's days that are great, there's days that are eh, and so my really strategy has been for that is that I just move it on over to the next day. And then I think, okay, today it didn't happen, but the next day I will get to it. And that's been helping me a lot. But Cindy, do you have any thoughts?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, cool. I think that you can find tremendous beauty in failure. And like some of the things that the other women were alluding to is to reframe the word failure as a lesson. And it's a tremendous lesson in growth. So, for example, I talk about personal finance with my women of color in travel, and I love normalizing money talk. And so a lot of things in my life have turned into huge lessons, which have prepared me to become even better in the next phase of my life. And when I think about money, I think about the fact that my family really never spoke about money and how I want to be able to kind of move forward with money as a normal thing that we talk about, like the weather, and really empowering ourselves with information about money. So, to kind of give you a little bit of context, my family always told me to save, and that's it. That's all they told me. And so when I moved forward in my life, I had tremendous amount of lessons that I didn't know about except to save my money. And so when I think about failure and seeing that beauty, I really think about, wow, this is the lesson that I've learned, and then really learn it, because you can say you've learned it, but if you don't really learn it, it will present itself again in your life. So, for example, I had done a couple of investments in Chicago, and it may have not gone the way I wanted it to go, but I learned, and then it really put me in a position of knowledge. It put me in a position of, what are you going to do next time to put yourself in an advantageous place and make better decisions? So I could harp about it and say, wah, wah, I did this. I didn't know about it. I don't know what I'm going to do. Woe is me. No, I took that setback and I said, wow, what am I going to do now? How am I going to improve myself the next time I want to make another investment? And it just really, I really harnessed that. And I took it to another level, and I educated myself. I really connected with other women in money, and I really became like almost a passion of mine. And so I think that failure really needs to be reframed, and really need to speak about what it means to you when you fail. And for me, finding beauty in failure means finding the lesson, because at that time I didn't know what it was supposed to mean. And so it set me back, but it really set me forward, because at the end of the day, I was positioned to be really prepared, in the sense when the pandemic hit, I was prepared. I was really ultimately prepared, and I didn't even know that I had to be that prepared. So just really taking that lesson and saying, oh my gosh, how grateful I actually had that lesson, and saying, wow, it really set me up to know that I'm going to get better at whatever happened, and finding that was something beautiful. And then I'm going to learn from that setback of money, investment, and really take it forward, move it forward in getting better at myself. So it's just another way of looking at failure and saying, wow, thank you. I had that failure, or I had that lesson in money, and now I'm here today, debt free, making great investments, and really preparing myself with whatever windfall I may have, regardless, and trusting that process. So those would be my example of beauty in failure.
I love that. And I feel like the debt free and financial literacy is a whole nother session that we can do, finger snaps. Yes, I am passionate about talking about being debt free, because I too did that as I ventured in entrepreneurship. So I love talking about it and how I did it. So that would definitely be a follow up workshop for sure. But so I absolutely love that. Clarissa, do you have any thoughts on this?
Oh, girl, I do. So it's, life is hard. Like, I'm not gonna say, not everything is easy. Like, my life wasn't easy, but then, I got to college, and then that wasn't easy. I got my psychology degree, and then, I went on to do my master's in social work, and I thought, man, this is, I went to university. I graduated in 3 years. I was like, nope, I'm going to do my MSW. This is how it's going to work. And I'm going to do this and that. And then I was diagnosed with MS when I was 19. And then I was like, holy crap, what do I do now? And it was like, I ignored it. And then, I go into grad school, and then I ignore it some more, and I'm doing really, really bad. And then basically all of that just turned into me saying, F it, I'm going to be a registered yoga teacher. I'm going to manage my own group and do my own self-care on the side. And I'm so happy. I'm so happy now, because it really didn't lead to anything but success, because I'm so happy. I can stay at home with my girls. I can teach yoga and do programs and do all of these other things that I would have never had the opportunity to do if I had, gone out there with a 9-to-5 and, done everything else that I was intentionally going to do. So the universe takes you where it's going to take you. Definitely.
That needs to be like a quote. The universe is going to take you where it needs to take you, because it really does. Sometimes you have these plans set forward, and then you're like, wait a minute, it just so did not happen the way that I planned it to. Like, so I've kind of learned that with that thought, you kind of have to let go. And sometimes, for the most part, it is better and bigger and amazing, more than you ever thought it would be, because the universe took you where you needed to be. And I think lots of times, for me personally, I've fought that. So I'm like, no, I'm not ready. I don't want to do that. I never thought I would be, traveling up and down, doing different speaking engagements, but that is where the universe led me. And once I started to embrace it, I was like, okay, I'm good. I'm good. So Kaya, any thoughts on just finding the beauty in failure?
Right away when you asked that question, when I saw it actually. And here's a thought, some of the most successful people that we turn to academically, even in the entertainment industry, authors, like if you were to think of some of the greatest people you admire, behind that, we see their success. But then underneath that, if we really took the time to read about them and learn about them, we realize all the trials and tribulations and all the shit that they had to get through to be who we see them as in today, right? One person right away comes to mind that most people know is Albert Einstein. Like his parents were told he would never amount to anything because he didn't speak till he was about 4 years old. So for 4 years, they thought my kid is dumb, my kid is stupid, my kid is retarded. What's wrong? How do we fix it? What do we do? And here was this brilliant mind who's, had huge impact and influence even to this day on how we live, right? So my mind goes there. And when I say children, I think of my youngest right now. She is 13. And this week, she was supposed to do a slide presentation it was an argumentative essay she wrote, and then she had to present. And her topic was electric vehicles. And she had done all this work on her essay, right? And the day before she's supposed to present, she's like, "Mom, I can't do it. I don't know what to put on my slides." And I'm telling her, "You can do this. Like, just take some of the parts of what you have in your essay." And in my mind, it makes total sense, right? But in her little brain, she's like, "I can't, I can't, I can't." So she goes to class. She ends up not having to present because time went over. Day number 2 goes by. She doesn't have to present. Kids are still presenting. By the 3rd day, I'm done. As mom, I'm like, "Dude, you got to get this done. Like, you've gotten 2 opportunities to get this done." And she says to me the most brilliant thing that I've heard her say before, but I hadn't paused long enough to hear it. And she said, and I wrote it down because I'm like, what is it that she says? She says, "Everything always works out in my favor, Mom. I know I'm going to get this done. I'm just scared." And I was like, holy crap, this kid is having anxiety that somehow she's going to fumble this, mess it up. She goes to a Spanish school where they do half English, half Spanish. Her presentation was in Spanish. And I'm going, oh my God, there's this whole world happening in her head for 3 days. And here is mom going, "You have to get this shit done. Like, you got to get it done. Just get over it." Like, I just wanted to push her. And the reality is, we all have our process of overcoming failure. I think somebody said earlier, like, give yourself grace. I tell my kids there isn't, failure is just feedback. And that comes from neuro-linguistic programming. There is no failure, there's only feedback. And I repeat it over and over again for me, not even for my children, not even for my clients. I repeat it for me because I do. There are so many fears inside this being named Kaya, even though to the world it seems like I'm confident, I'm doing these things, because that's the feedback I get from them. But internally, there's always this fear of, what are people going to think, right? Unconsciously going on. Do I look good on camera? Is my background okay? Is my sound okay? Like, even right now, when we started, there's all these fears that happen. And it takes me back to reminding all of us, like, being mindful is one thing, and then taking action with the thing you're catching, right? Like, the moment today I realized I'm not happy with being at my boyfriend's house in this background, I thought, we're talking about beauty today. What beauty can I really find in this moment? And I went to the yellow colored walls. It made me happy. I'm sitting outside. I'm sitting here and I'm looking outside the window and I see a jasmine tree, right? Like a plant. And I'm going, okay, there's beauty around me. It's okay. Let go of all the other stuff. Thank you, brain, for sharing. Let's move forward. So if we can slow down enough to catch stuff and be aware of what's the next thing we're going to do, whether it's the reframe, like somebody said, whether it's the slowing down and breathing, or whether it's sometimes telling your inner child, hey, you know what, sweetie, put on your big girl panties, you got this, right? Like, it's going to depend. So I'll leave it with that.
Oh my God, Kaya,
Oh
thank
God,
you so much.
Such a great point.
Thank you so much for sharing that story about Albert Einstein, because my 2-year-old refuses to talk. And I am like, she is the smartest effing kid I have ever seen, nonverbal. So you're right, all the way.
And just to add to that, like, I'm an educator, so I don't think that we should be rushing children on a certain timeline. And a lot of our society does that. And back to this rushing notion that certain kids are supposed to be at certain milestones. And I'm feeling that with my 8-year-old. And I say, I reject it. And I say, listen to that child. And I was like that too. My child didn't talk until he was 3 or 4. He's an only child. And I worried for like maybe 5 seconds, and I did a couple of actions with that. Nothing came of it. And now my child cannot stop talking. So, with that said, I think that we as mothers know our children, we know who they are, and we have an intuitive sense of being, and we are creators by nature. And so I really reject all society's notion of what children should be doing. And I think it's very empowering that you speak that into existence about your worrying, but also really great. You know, you're doing great, and everyone's doing a really great.
No, thank you for your thoughts, Cindy. I know that the audio cut out a little bit. So if you want to just capture the thought real quick, you want to, we missed like the last 30 seconds.
Oh yeah, I just wanted to say that at the end of the day, you know your child, you're a mother, and you know exactly where they are, who they are, and an impact in society. That notion of where children should be rejected, and you should just follow your intuition as you are the expert in your child.
Oh, most definitely. I feel like also having that educational background, that is another whole workshop that we can get into. Like, I know that we're gonna have so many good points here that we can definitely expand on for sure. But Elizabeth, any final thoughts?
Yeah, absolutely. So it came up that failure is a lesson, and I think that's a really good thing to note. And I will say one time, I don't even, this gives you perspective. I don't even remember what the mistake was. But when I started my job, I had not been as CEO. I was definitely underqualified. I didn't have my bachelor's or master's degree at the time. Like, I didn't have experience, and I just remember that it cost money, that it cost us money, and it's a nonprofit. Like, that's what I remember. And one of my board members said, that's just tuition. Like, that money that we paid, it was worth it. It was tuition. And I thought, gosh, what a great way to, like you said, reframe failure. It was a failure, but the expense was, at least it happened on something that cost $1,000 and not $50,000, right? Like, so we paid the tuition, and that has been useful many times in my life. But the other thing that I think is important is that we call a lot of things failure that aren't failure. So we're like, oh, we failed, and there's feedback and but there's all, like, sometimes a business fails, right? You have a business, it just doesn't work out. But a lot of things aren't failure in that just because something ends doesn't mean it was a failure. Like, I went through a horrific marriage, my first marriage, and it did not last more. I mean, it lasted 7 years, 6 years too long. It wasn't a failure because I needed to be there for that time. Like, I had my 2 older children out of it. I grew as a person. There was no failure. Relationships, it can go for a finite amount of time. Sometimes that's friendships. And also at the workplace, like, you don't have to let the moment it ended define the entire experience. It's when we lose someone, so often we focus on, like, it's their death, right? The death is the defining experience in our relationship, which is sad. Relationships are made up of a million moments. So loss and failure don't always exist the way we think they are. And I think another way that we're very hard on ourselves, especially as women, and this one is really, really true for me, and I try to fight it, is failing to meet expectations that are placed on us by a society who is profiting off of us and not rooting for us. So talking about beauty, talking about how we show up physically in the world. Like, there is nothing wrong with wanting to be beautiful. There is nothing wrong with beauty, but who gets to decide what is beautiful? Like, we are not failing at that ever. Like, you can't fail at that. It's impossible to fail at a subjective measurement, first of all. So we are beautiful in the ways that we find beauty. So, I mean, you could go on and on. Beauty's from the inside and all that, but if we're talking about physical beauty, because it's real, we appreciate beauty. It's beautiful to look at. But when you only look at one, if you constantly are taking in visual information about what beauty is or what success is, all those things, those are messages we're sending ourselves that are only reality for someone else. So not meeting these benchmarks. It's like with children, like you were saying with small children. these benchmarks are meaningless. So we're not failing. We're just not failing at those things most of the time. So it's not hard for me to find beauty in that anymore. I think partly because I failed a lot. And so, you get like, you like build up a tolerance to it, which is also helpful. It's like building up rejection tolerance. You can do that. It's totally valid. It sucks the whole time. It's like with failure, it sucks the whole time, but then you're not sorry that you did it. It's like climbing a mountain. If you've climbed a mountain, it sucks every second you're doing it. I haven't run a marathon. I never will. But people who run marathons are like, oh no, I hated every second of it, but I'm so glad I did it. That's all this. That's failing. That's living. That's existing in this culture, in this life right now. Yeah, that's it.
Wow. Yes. Yes to all that. I love the reference to the mountain because, oh man, I just visually pictured myself walking up, that mountain and just being exhausted. So girls, I know that this was going to happen, that our conversation was going to be rich, and we're really coming down to the end of this conversation, but I didn't want to not ask this question. So I'm going to do it really open, just all of us. We're going to unmute and, just answer it as you feel called to answer it, because I feel like this one is, out of all the things that I wanted to talk about, this one is the one that needs to be at the forefront, and it's how do you find joy in the mundane? So how do you find joy in just repetitive action? How do you find joy in maybe, for those of us that are going to do taxes soon, how do you find the joy in that? How do you find joy in, repetitiveness when it comes to your business? How do you find joy in just, every day doing laundry? So it is an open forum right now. Would love your thoughts. Anyone that wants to kick it off.
I'm going to jump in because I know I've been texting you like, please, can we get to this question? Because this one's so important to me, because this is where I live my life. Okay, there is no such thing as the mundane, first of all, because every single moment, even doing taxes, now, like, I don't want to be like toxic positivity, like being taxes is awesome, but okay, I'm going to call that tedium. TDM is what it is, and somebody else can address that. But in the mundane, the everyday, the washing dishes, the doing laundry, like, there actually is beauty in all of that. You don't have to be, like, we have this idea that we have to all be freaking exceptional, because all we get sent to us all the time is the same message that, like, oh my gosh, everybody's doing so amazing, and by 30 they're running an organization and they have a wraparound porch and they have like $1,000 worth of pumpkins on their front porch and then sunflowers, and like they always have, like, and they go on vacation. Mundane life doesn't have to be like going wine tasting every weekend or like going on fancy vacation. Like, music and beauty and art are available every day in your life. And flowers that I cut from my yard, that side, like, this stuff it's always there, it's available. So when you're like taking out the trash and you walk by and you're smelling the flowers on your way, like, there's never a moment that you're not surrounded by beauty in your mundane life, if you like know where to look for it. If you lower your expectations, which sounds crazy, but of yourself, like, you can have the high expectations and the aspirational dreams, but every day you're living in beauty. And this is what life is. Like, 50 years ago, we're working on farms, right? Like, we're working on, people still are, but like the 50-year-old farmer plowing his field was not thinking about your front porch decor. But now he like has to, right? So we're like, right? So why does this matter? It doesn't. Like, your life is really what matters. So like, cut off, shut down a little bit from what everybody's highlight reel, and think about like what life can actually be. And it's okay if your life is taking care of your family, going to work, and reading a book now and then. That's okay.
Yeah.
Gosh, I want to. I'm like, oh, that's so juicy. That's so great. I wanted to jump in because one of the things that I learned early in my 20s, and just to give you guys some context, I grew up in South Central Los Angeles, really chaotic household. Half the stuff I've accomplished, people are like, you should either have been a drug addict, and I've heard this from people, a prostitute, or dead by now, given your background, right? Like, that's the stereotype I grew up in. Fast forward to I am 23. I've repeated some life patterns from my family, and I've lost custody of my daughter to the state for failure to protect. And here I am at the pit of despair going, what the heck have I done with my life? How am I repeating these things? This wasn't supposed to happen, right? Like all those things that we could possibly do to ourselves when we're already in a bad situation. And I ended up finding an organization that I went and did a 3-day program with. And one of the biggest ahas in my life occurred that day for me. And it was this, that I could invent who I wanted to be, that I didn't have to be bound to the past that my parents gave me or to my own view of my past and the stories that I was creating about my future. Because in that moment when I started the course, if we call it that, I felt like I didn't even need to be alive. Like if I failed as a mom, how could I even do anything good for the world, right? Yet inside me was something going, Chaya, you have more to give. You have more to do. There's still more to do. Like you can't give up on your kid. You can't give up on you. How are you going to compact time? Because that was what was running in my mind while I was at the workshop. All I wanted was my kid back. And how do I quickly do that as possible? The state told me it would take about a year. I did it in 5 months by playing this game of who do I invent Chaya to be? Who do I have to become? Not who the world says, not who my parents say, but who do I have to become to accomplish the thing I want? And I've taken that on to every area of my life, including doing the dishes when I fight with my kids about it, right? Or I should say, when I used to. But it's who do I want to be? Who do I invent myself to be as a way of, not to get ultra deep, but as a way of being. So when people say be love, what the fuck does that really mean, right? Be joy. So for me, it became how can I engage curiously playing that role? How can I become the future version of me that I don't even know what she's going to accomplish yet? And then play. And that became the biggest other reframe was I can live in the mundane things, as we're calling them right now, if I allow myself to turn this into a game. Because at the end of the day, we're all going to die. We don't know how much time we have left. So why not invent day by day, moment by moment, the game you're going to play? So for me, I'm out to play the game of being a mom. For me, I'm out to play the game of being a healer in the world. And also that entrepreneur. That's why I created the whole, hey, I'm Chaya Lopez, mom, healer, entrepreneur. Like I took on those labels willingly. So I say, hey, you want to get out of the mundane stuff? Bring some game to it, bring some play to it. Like, who do you want to be at home? Who do you want to be with your partner? Who do you want to be at work? And forget what past context you have been living into. Sounds simple, takes some mindfulness and action, but that's what I wanted to add after hearing Miss over there with her. I'm going to cut my flowers. I've been staring at those flowers this whole time going, are they real? Thank you. Thank you.
It felt so
Great
good.
question.
The whole time we're sitting here, I'm smelling them. Talk about beauty. It's so nice. In my musty attic, otherwise dark.
That was a great question. Thank you.
Yeah, definitely. All right. Any final thoughts?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that finding beauty in the mundane is finding yourself, literally. Like, I don't want to do the dishes, but I got to do it. And, if you take a pause from all the mundane, it actually gets a little boring. It gets even more boring. I think there's a moment for slowing down and being in on vacation, so to speak, and not doing the mundane. But when you cut out the mundane, you cut out life. And when you cut out life, you sit in yourself, and it's nice. It's a mini vacation. And we all do that. We don't want to do the dishes. We don't want to do the laundry. But I find that there is, like Chaya was saying, there is a diversion in the mundane. There is your life in the mundane. In those small moments, you get to be with, I don't know, your kid. You get to understand where you're at with the dishes, literally. And you really kind of have to step back and be like, this is necessary. My drive is necessary. It's not forever, but I do it, and I do it with some kind of joy and gratitude at the end of the day, because it's really about you. It's really, you're finding you in the mundane. And that's the hardest part. It's easier said than done. But in that, there is beauty, I believe. If you look hard enough, you will find it. And I think that that's really critical. And that's success for me, is finding joy and gratitude in the, because as human beings, that's how we operate. We find the rituals, we find the steps always that we're doing, the habitual steps that will give us some kind of clarity at the end of the day, and that will give us some kind of identity, And so I think that's what you have to find in the everyday mundane.
No, I absolutely love that. You really, bottom line is that there's beauty everywhere. You just have to be intentional and have it be at the forefront, whether it be those flowers behind you, like Elizabeth, smelling them, or whether it be, a intentional picture right here, that you have every day so you can look at it, that brings you, happiness. And I think when it comes to finding joy, I think sometimes it does have to be purposeful. I could think of something specifically. One of my first roles as a manager, I can remember coaching a staff member to say, don't, she was very upset over an interaction, and she got flustered. She was crying. She's way older than me. I was, the youngest actually out of the building. And there I am in a management role. And, I'm thinking, okay, quickly, how do I help her? And basically, we had to talk her through that, do not let anyone steal your power. And by that is also joy that, comes with that. And so she physically allowed herself to get visibly upset, physically upset, and over something that she had no control over. It just happened that the interaction with a specific other person, it just, she crossed paths. This person probably had a bad day, started her day off completely wrong. 30 things went wrong with this other individual. And it just so happens that, she was the cherry that kind of set her off. And so, we had to talk about not giving away your power, but then also finding that connection with that person. So next time those feelings didn't come back up of like, oh, this was awful the last time I saw her, I want to avoid her. But no, it was like, we talked about noticing that she was a Raiders fan. And so, next time you see her, start the conversation about, her football team, even though you don't like it, but look a stat up real quick on Google and connect with her that way. And then she completely just reframes her mindset when it comes to interacting with individuals in that setting that we were in. And so it really is, being intentional with, putting that at the forefront. And yes, sometimes, I know that I have epically failed and, taking the best out of everything. And I'm also will always say that I'm not Pollyanna either, because I'm not always positive. It may look like that, but it really is an internal struggle, and just intentionally finding, the joy in things and the beauty in things. And so as we're closing, any last final thoughts on the topic? And then as you want to interject any final thoughts, Clarissa, okay, go for it.
So let me just say, I relate to all of my ladies here. You all have had so much wisdom, and I would love to bond more. And we need a part 2, Dominica. But definitely, I would say in the mundane, Elizabeth's right, Kaya's right, Cindy's right, everyone's right. Like, I tell myself every day, I'm going to miss this. When I was breastfeeding my toddler, they wouldn't get off of me. I was like, I'm going to miss this. When I was doing all of these things that at the time were like, oh my God, I'm going to die. I miss it now. And, you know, I just think about the fact that I'm going to miss this too. You know, I'm going to miss every single moment. And I really do try to live in that. And that is why, you know what? You're right. There is no mundane. Every single moment of life is beautiful. And, you know, we just got to think, look how far we've come. And look how far we're still going to go. So we're all so right.
Finger snaps to that, Clarissa. That is a great way to end our conversation. So as we are wrapping up, I would love for each one of you to have a closing thought, and we're going to go in order. I am bringing up my little cheat sheet here. Share some final thoughts and where people can connect with you as we're closing. And definitely for everyone that is watching us now, we'll go back and put everyone's social media profiles and bios so you can connect with all our panelists. And closing, you'll be able to connect also in our closing outro. So, Cindy, will you exit us with just any final thoughts and then sharing your social media profiles?
Yeah, thanks. So one of my final thoughts would be to really follow your intuition and really go with that, because I believe that as women, we have the power of intuition. And at the end of the day, it's understated, and we are natural creators. And to really tap into that and leverage it. I think it's very powerful to leverage intuition in your business, in your personal and your spiritual life. I don't consider myself a huge spiritual person, but I do meditate, and I believe you know that you have all the answers within you. And I've really leveraged that and kind of moved forward, and that's helped me in my personal growth and my mental health. And it's tremendous amount of reflection that I've done. And I believe that once you tap into your tuition, there's nothing holding you back. So I really think that that's a powerful stepping stone for women. And I applaud everyone on this panel. You motivate me. And thank you, Dominica, for inviting me. And also, you can find me at EllaPocketbook there on Instagram, or www.ellapocketbook.com. I'm there. I'm creating a Women of Color in Travel community, and it's a private community. And it's for women of color who've always been a part of the travel narrative. And we are doing a live series on cooking. We have a book club. It's a robust community of women of color who are traveling the globe and doing extraordinary things. And I'm here to be the storyteller, and it's such a privilege to be that person. So really, really grateful to everyone here. I've had a blast, and yeah, happy Sunday.
All right, love it. Clarissa.
Thank you so much. It was wonderful speaking with all y'all lovely ladies. Like I said, we need a round two, Dominica, because you know that we've got some more juicy stuff to dish on and all that, you know, whatever. We're women, like we said, we can talk. But I just wanted to say thank you so much. And I encourage everyone to find me on social media at Multiple Sclerosis Mamas. I know it's kind of long, but if you go to msmamas.com, you can find our store. You can visit our online store where we have some apparel. And you can also sign up for our private Facebook page and our emails, so that way you can stay in the know for everything with MS Mamas. And if you know an MS Mama, shoot her our way, because you know we love to have the community. We love to support. We're over 1,000 members strong on Facebook. All MS Mamas, private Facebook community. So we welcome everyone. msmamas.com again, and at Multiple Sclerosis Mamas if you ever want to find us.
Awesome. Go for it, Chaya. And I know, Clarissa, you got to go. So thank you for being here.
Yes. So the easiest way to find me online is Chaya Lopez Live, pretty much on every social media platform. And geez, this has been a blast. It's always fun to be on, whether it's a live talk or virtual talk with you, Dominica. You always bring up such beautiful topics. Um, Final thoughts. Gosh, I didn't talk a whole lot about my project, Spiritual and Unstoppable, but I was thrilled that you brought it up when you asked for my picture and bio. Spiritual and Unstoppable is my latest project. I've been in the consulting world, in the healing world, for 22 years now. And right now, I have this huge calling to help entrepreneurs reconnect with their spirituality. What does that look like on the court? Really is your work life currently in a place that you feel at peace with yourself, or are you struggling because you no longer want to get out of bed and do the thing that you're getting paid to do, whether it's you running your business, because I know that feeling, or whether it's you going to a job. At the end of the day, if right now that doesn't light you up to jump out of bed and bring you joy, chances are there's a missing piece there. And it usually, after 5,000 people that I've dealt with, usually goes back to a component of their soul. Are they following their soul's calling? So that's what Spiritual Unstoppable is all about. Among, if people are local, I work with them body wise, which Dominica has gotten to experience before, because I do not like seeing people in pain, whether it's physical or emotional. And at the end of the day, my job right now that I've chosen is to empower the people that are out to transform their local community, because that's going to change the world. Thank you.
Love that. Thank you for being here, Chaya, Cindy, Elizabeth. We will close with you.
Okay, so I don't have a lot of personal social media stuff to share right now. You can find me, but right now it's very much like grant and business time at the nonprofit. So the Food Initiative of Greater Stanislaus is not, I don't own this organization. I run this organization, and it is wonderful. And we are feeding the hungry, 250,000 people a year. We are only healthy food, not good and bad, but we like lots of fruits and vegetables, lots of fresh food, not what you'd expect from a food pantry and food bank. Doing lots of cool new projects there. So follow us at the Food Init. You'll find us. We can go by FIGS or Food Initiative of Greater Stanislaus. But also I do have Elizabeth Greenlee Wight, which we can put in there later, is my public profile where I put business stuff and inspiring stuff and body positive stuff when I remember to. And if you want to see pictures of my kids and my dogs and my garden, the Fake Librarian, it's private, but I'll preview. I am the Fake Librarian. You'll also see my library. So there's that, which is beautiful, by the way. So just as closing thoughts, I want to say, my mom is a beauty maker. Like, I learned this from her. Like, it's a thing she gifts us, how to make things beautiful. I have two brothers. They're both also amazing at it. Everything around us is already beautiful, always beautiful. I didn't know we were poor when I was a kid, because she could make things so beautiful from nothing. Like, that was what she did. Mm-hmm. And I can't help it. I have to make everything beautiful. Like beautiful to me. I have to have flowers. I have to have those things. So I think that's my takeaway is, like, you can make everything around you, at least make your surroundings beautiful. You can surround yourself with the beauty that speaks to you. It makes everything just a little gentler and a little bit softer and a little bit kinder, which is what we need. Thank you so much for having me, Dominica, and thank you, ladies.
Yeah, of course. Well, ladies, thank you so much. I feel like we automatically may do a part 2 here. I feel like there's still so much more that we can say about this topic. And I'm going to close this out with, I am Dominica Escatel. I am the host and founder of Chicana Inc. And I also have several other projects going on. So you can definitely connect with me through my bio on Facebook and YouTube and Instagram. So with that said, we will close out with our outro. All right, bye everyone. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much
for watching the replay. Give us a comment. Show us some love.